The Detroit Pistons have what I think, when we look back at it after the season, what could be their best win of the season, beating the defending champions, Golden State Warriors, 128-114. We'll talk about what went into this victory for the Detroit Pistons in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. The Pistons have an absolutely fantastic performance against the Golden State Warriors and win at home wearing the teal jerseys. By the way, the teal jerseys in the teal court looks absolutely just chef's kiss. It looks amazing. The logo on the court, just all about it. Everything about it, I just absolutely love. But 128-114, they beat the Golden State Warriors. They did not have Klay Thompson, but nonetheless, this is a big win for the Pistons. And there's going to be a lot of things we're going to talk about today. I kind of want to split up each segment into talking about a specific player, because there's 3 players I really want to harp on and what they did tonight, and want to give them a lot of credit. But first, we're going to start with Cade Cunningham. Actually, even before we get into Cade's overall game, I want to let you guys know that we're recording 2 episodes tonight. This one's going to be recapping the Golden State Warriors game, but I have another one that I'm going to record right after this. I have another one talking about the Bojan Bogdanovic extension that he signed. We're going to be talking about that in a separate podcast. So you guys haven't heard me talk about it here, because we're going to be talking about it in another episode. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, let's get back into this game. Cade Cunningham played absolutely fantastic within this game. I think Cade, over the last 3 games, has played like a surefire all-star by far. He's starting to find what is his go-to. And I feel like every star, by the way, he had 23 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 9 of 20 from the floor. He got to the free throw line 4 times. He was a plus 16 in this game. But yeah, I think he's finding his go-to move. And it's that pull-up from the free throw line extended. And I feel like every star has like a go-to move. Maybe not Giannis, because Giannis can just overpower anybody that comes in his way. So that's basically his go-to move, is just to overpower whoever the hell's in front of him. So maybe not Giannis, but I feel like every star has their own go-to move. And Cade, I don't feel like really he's like a Swiss Army knife. He can hit you from all kinds of areas, but I don't know if we could say up to this point he had like a go-to move that you could attach to his name. And I think so far this year, especially over the last few games, you are seeing that free throw line extended pull-up jumper is his bread and butter. That's where he wants to get to every time, whether you have a longer defender on him, whether you had Draymond Green on him, whether you got a smaller defender and Steph Curry or Jordan Poole, he'll just raise right over you. He has a super long wingspan, 7-foot wingspan. He's around 6'6", 6'7". He should be able to raise up over anybody around that area as long as he gets to his spot and has the balance to get it off. And you saw him get it off over and over and over and over tonight. I absolutely love seeing that from Cade. Cade played fantastic getting to his spots. Another thing with Cade, and something that we've been harping on all offseason, we harped on it all last year, and we even talked about it at the beginning of this year. He's not searching out the three-pointer. You eventually want Cade to be able to shoot well from beyond the distance. You want him to be able to hit pull-up threes. You want him to be able to hit catch-and-shoot threes. Like, you want that to be a part of his game when he hits his peak. But right now, the focus for his game, where his strengths are, is getting to the rim and getting to that mid-range area and getting clean looks for himself. That's where he really excels at, and that's where he can become borderline unstoppable. When he ends up eventually hitting that outside shot, I don't see how you can guard him. I truly don't. I don't know how teams will be able to guard him in the future when he eventually can hit outside shots, especially off the dribble. Once he does that, good luck. But right now, getting to the rim, drawing in defenses, shooting over defenders once you get to your spot in the mid-range, and drawing fouls need to be at the core of what Cade Cunningham does offensively, and that's what he's done over the last few games, and he's looked like an absolute surefire all-star. Fantastic game from Cade Cunningham. Look, I don't think the team was great defensively, but I thought Cade was better defensively tonight than he had been throughout the season. I'd like to see him get a little bit more consistent on the defensive end, but I thought tonight he was better defensively than he had been for other parts during the season. But yeah, man, getting to his spot consistently, he was doing great, and he was finding open teammates. He had one absolutely sick pass to Killian Hayes, kind of in transition. He had a bounce pass between like 3 defenders, all the way from like just above the 3-point line to Killian cutting along the baseline. It was just a fantastic, amazing pass. I'm going to be shocked if you don't see it on like the NBA top 10, whether it's on ESPN or NBA.com. I'll be shocked if you don't see it on there. That's how crazy of a pass it was. But yeah, I thought Cade, not only did he get to his spots well, I thought he was just getting everybody involved really, really well. I thought he was just running the show the best that, honestly, maybe he's ever done it so far this year. Or maybe not even this year. I meant to say just throughout his whole career. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the 2 other players we're going to talk about on the podcast, and Sadiq Bay and Isaiah Stewart, had absolutely fantastic games tonight. So obviously, when your teammates play a little bit better, you're going to look better. The offense is going to look better. The team will look better, obviously, and everything's going to look like it's flowing much smoother. But I thought Cade really looked for the right shots consistently throughout the night. I don't think I can really point to one shot where I feel like he forced it or he shouldn't have taken it. I feel like he got his shot each time down the floor. The shot that the Pistons took was the shot Cade wanted them to take. I felt like damn near every time down the floor. And that's what you want to see from your lead ball handler, from your point guard, and from your face of the franchise, man. Fantastic game from Cade. 23, 10, and 9 of 9 of 20 shooting. Just a tremendous game from Cade Cunningham. I hope he continues this stretch tomorrow or tonight when you guys listen to this against the Milwaukee Bucks. That's probably going to be a little bit tougher to do against the Milwaukee Bucks. But nonetheless, I hope he continues it and he plays really well in this game. But yeah, Cade was absolutely fantastic against the defending champs. When we come back, I want to talk about Sadiq Bay and Isaiah Stewart, who both had by far their best games of the year. We'll talk about what is helping them have such a great, or what helped them have such a great game, and what's helping Sadiq Bay have such an efficient year thus far into the season. We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting, football, and the start of the new basketball season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for our sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport that's out there. The fastest and easiest way to check out all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. And if you head over to the basketball section at betonline.net, you will see that you can look at MVP favorites, championship favorites, 6th man of the year favorites, rookie of the year favorites, all that kind of stuff over at betonline.net. Make sure you head over there or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. All right, so let's talk about Sadiq Bay a little bit. Sadiq had a fantastic game tonight. And he actually even I have to give a shout out to this because all of you guys started tweeting at me as soon as he did it. He finally made one of his sidestep threes. Now, I think he missed like 3 of them before that, but he eventually finally made one. I believe it was like midway through the 4th quarter. He finally hit one. So it was good to see one of those finally fall in. There's a few plays where I really wish he just would catch and shoot the 3. He probably would have even ended the night with a 30-plus point game if he would have just caught and catch and shot some of these threes instead of sidestepping. But nonetheless, he had a fantastic game, 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists on 9 of 17 shooting, 4 of 9 from deep, and 6 of 6 from the free throw line. And I know I'm talking about Saddiq in this segment, but I kind of have to talk about the whole team with this part. This was just an extremely efficient night by the Detroit Pistons. Sadiq Bay, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Bojan, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Isaiah Stewart drew 11 free throws in this game. He shot 10 of 11 from the free throw line. Cade, 4 of 4. Jaden Ivey, 3 of 5. Diallo, 2 of 2, and Jalen Duren was 1 of 2. The Pistons as a team shot 34 of 38 from the free throw line. They drew 38 free throws. They shot 89% from the free throw line. They shot 42% from deep. They shot 48% from the floor. That's like prime Steph Curry numbers. That is literally like prime Steph Curry splits right there. This is by far probably the most efficient basketball game I've seen the Pistons play in years. I can't think of another like efficient game like this that they've played. Definitely, at least while Cade Cunningham's been on the roster. So Saddiq contributed to that, and I just had to point that out. As a team, this is just such an efficient brand of basketball. How you have to play against such an elite team like the Golden State Warriors. But back to Saddiq, 28 points. What I love from Saddiq, and we kind of talked about it on the last episode about how I'm at a little bit of a crossroads with Saddiq about what to criticize, what to really harp on. I really just want to harp on what I'm loving from him so far this year, and it's the fact that he's cutting out all the long twos, all the long drawn-out ISOs that he did or he was trying to do last year. He's cut those out. You don't see those very often, if at all. He's cut those completely out, and he's been much more decisive with his moves and what he wants to do. Now, there's a few times, again, when he gets to the rim, and maybe I would like him to kick out to the corner a few times. Maybe there's a few times where I'd rather him dump it off or find an open shooter once he draws the defense in. But nonetheless, he's being much more decisive with what he wants to do. And once he decides he's going to do something, there's no hesitation. There's no, unadded moves that needs to be a part of it. I'm going to go to the rim, draw straight line to the rim. I'm going to get a 3 up. I'm going to get this 3 up. I'm going to sidestep and get this 3 up. I want to draw some contact, get to the free throw line. I'm going to go and drive in super strong and try to get some contact. Everything he's doing is super decisive. And that's what's really taking his game to the next level. He had 28 points on 17 shot attempts. That's insane efficiency. He's getting to the free throw line 6 times. That's great. He hit all 6 of the free throws, and he shot just under 50% from the three-point line. All of that Saddiq, if he continues to just trim that fat off his game and continues to just be super decisive and just do, quick decision kind of things and operate in small spaces of the offense, he could score 20 points a game. He doesn't need to do the isolations. He doesn't need to have the ball in his hands a ton to go out there and be able to drop 18 to 20 points. He just needs to be super decisive and super efficient in the small spots that he gets within the offense. And that's what he was doing tonight. And he's been doing that throughout the entire season. He's been extremely efficient this season. And I think nonetheless, whether all the stuff I talk about that he needs to improve on and, the better decision-making around the rim, all that kind of stuff, all that stuff I talk about, I think I've gotten to a point where you could probably live with that stuff if he's going to be as efficient as he's been thus far this season. Now, it's only been 7 games, and we're going to look back at 20-game mark. But if he continues to be like this each game, if he can be this efficient, you can live with some of the other stuff that he some of the other mistakes that he has or some of his other weaknesses. Now, the one weakness that you probably won't be able to live with is the fact he's not a good defender at all. He has to improve on that side of the floor. But if he's going to shoot 43% from the field, if he's going to shoot, he needs to get the 3-point percentage up to, I know before this game it was at 31%. It's probably going to go up to around, 34, 35% after this game. But he needs to be hovering around 36, 37% from the 3-point line. You probably like it even a little bit higher. But if he's going to be shooting like 44, 37, 85 from the free throw line, shooting 55% on twos, cutting out all the long mid-rangers. Look, so let me say some of the numbers that we talked about in the last podcast too. If he's going to be doing all of that while also taking 51% of his shots from the 2-point range, taking 23% of his shots at the rim, shooting 57% at the rim while also shooting 50% from the 3 to 10 feet area, if he's going to do that, then you can live with some of the other stuff he's going to do, because that's just super efficient basketball. That's just extremely efficient basketball that you want in your wing, that you want in a 4th scorer on your team, a 4th, 5th scorer on your team. Right now, I think you'd probably have him 3rd behind Cade and Bojan, but eventually you'll probably have Cade, Ivy, Bojan, who signed that extension. If he's still around, that's 3, and then probably a top 5 pick this year. I think they'll probably end up getting. So that's another person. But from a guy who's going to be like your 4th or 5th option, eventually when you start competing, if he's going to be that efficient from the floor, you can live with some of his, questionable decision-making around the rim. So I love what I'm seeing from Saddiq on that end. I'd like to see him be a little bit more, focused defensively. But look, if he's going to be this efficient, dog, you just got to live with that. 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Love what I saw from him. He was a big, big reason why the Pistons won this game. He led the Pistons in scoring against the defending champs. I love the fact, by the way, too, before we move on, that Saddiq rises up for the occasion against the Golden State Warriors. He is extremely competitive, and he knows, like, Jalen Rose is on the sideline watching the game. He knows when it's a big-time game. And I like the fact that he showed up for a big-time game in the teal jersey with all the fans there because it's the teal game, teal courts and everything. Jalen Rose against the defending champs, all that stuff. Love the fact that he came out and he showed out, and he was balling from the get-go. So, tremendous game from Saddiq. Tremendous game from Cade Cunningham. Both of those guys were major factors why the Pistons won this game. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Isaiah Stewart next, who had, I think, the best game of his career against the Golden State Warriors tonight. We'll talk about why that is when we come back. But first, you guys got to hear from some of our lovely sponsors. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on our podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Isaiah Stewart had a career-high 24 points tonight. He had 13 rebounds. He went to the free throw line 11 times. He was a plus 12 on the court. Shot 6 of 10 from the field. The Pistons, listen, I know I've said it like 20 times, but I got to just keep hammering this home. The Pistons were just extremely efficient as a team. I don't think I can remember the last time damn near every person on the team was just uber efficient. Like that it's truly crazy how well they played offensively tonight. But sticking to Isaiah Stewart, there's one area that I think that I want to focus on and that everyone should really be monitoring the rest of the year. Because I don't think this part is sustainable, but when he is able to do it, it really, really helps him out, and it really helps out the team. Now, look, Isaiah Stewart's not a great finisher at the rim. He's probably a below average one. However, if he's able to turn those tough finishes to 11 free throws instead of taking tough finishes at the rim, instead he's drawing free throws and getting to the line 11 times, if he can do that, that immediately will help him out. That immediately helps him out. That helps the offense run much smoother. It's much more efficient. It helps him out tremendously. So by far, and heading into this game, he's been doing a good job of drawing free throws. We talked about it a few times on one of the podcasts. I forget which one it was, but it was I think it was last week we talked about it. So far this season, he's shooting 5.5 free throws a game. I don't know what it's going to go up to after this game, probably around 7 attempts a game. That's crazy. He's drawing a ton of free throws a game. I don't know if it's sustainable that he can draw that many free throws. Like, Cade's not even going to draw that many. Sadiq's not even drawing that many. So I don't know if it's sustainable for that. But when he is able to turn those tough, awkward finishes into free throw attempts, it makes life so much easier on him. And he's going to be able to get to the line where he's going to be more efficient at than he is probably on some finishes around the rim, and makes the offense so much better. So they need to watch that. If he can consistently do that, that will help him out in the long run. I don't know if he will be able to. I don't know if that's something that you can really rely on consistently, but I'll be watching for it because it's a big thing. It will be a big factor for him because he's not going to get taller. He's not going to get more athletic. He's not going to get all of a sudden tremendous touch around the rim. Like, that stuff's probably not going to ever change. Actually, it's just not going to change. But what he can do is find ways to work around that. And drawing free throws is a big way to work around it. Also, the other thing that he can do to work around it is outside shooting. And tonight he hit 2 of 5 from deep. Now, he was shooting 22% on the year from beyond the arc. I don't know what it's going to go up to. Probably, I'm going to take a guess at like 26%, probably somewhere around there on the season. Now, after this night, he shot 2 of 5 from the floor or from the deep. You love seeing him hit a few threes in a game, and he continues to shoot them, whether he's making or missing. He continues to shoot them with extreme confidence. So you love seeing that too. Eventually, you want to see him start to go down at a more consistent rate. But I think this is probably what you're going to see from Stu for like the majority of this season. You're probably going to see some games. It's probably going to be a game he shoots 2 of 5, a game he shoots 3 of 5, and then a few games he'll shoot 1 of 4, 1 of 5, 0 of 4. It's just going to be a probably up and down thing, and that's probably just going to be par for course with his progression and his development from beyond the arc. He's not going to be a 40% shooter every single game. He's not going to be a 40% shooter on the season. He's going to have some highs, he's going to have some lows. And tonight was a big high for Isaiah Stewart. I think it was his best game of his career. 13 rebounds too. He was battling down there. He was absolutely battling. And I saw that apparently him and James Wiseman have like a little bit of a rivalry that goes back years because they were like the top 2 big guys in their class. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but he absolutely just destroyed Kevon Looney. Like, he dominated that matchup. Looney had 2 points and 9 rebounds. Stu just completely obliterated him, ate him up, absolutely ate him up. And he kept drawing fouls on him too. I know Looney only says he had 2 fouls in this game, but he drew like 2 over the back fouls on him like real quickly. It was just an overall great game from Stu. I thought this was his best game of the year, of his career, to be honest. And all of these guys that we talked about, Cade, Sadiq, and Stu, having just the best games you could possibly ask for against the defending champ. So I wanted to give a lot of credit to those 3 guys and just really highlight them for today's podcast. Before we leave, though, Bojan with 21 points on 5 of 8 shooting. He had 21 points on 8 shots. That's just wild. At halftime, he had 11 points on 3 shots. Like, that's crazy. That's just crazy. That's crazy efficiency, dude. You don't see that very often. That's just wild stuff. I thought Jaden Ivey actually was trending towards having one of his worst games of the year, probably the worst game of the year in the first half. In the third quarter, Jordan Poole started really going at him and taking advantage of him. But I thought he turned it up late, really responded, ended the game with 15 points and 5 of 11 shooting. Definitely was a big part of this win too, late, because at a certain point in the second half, the Warriors cut this thing down to 9 points. Had a point where Jordan Poole scored like 9 points in 25 seconds. So it was looking scary there for a second. And Jaden Ivey came through in the second half and played really well, drew some fouls, got to the rim, hit a few threes. Really liked what I saw from him in response to what I thought was probably his worst half of the season in the first half. So love seeing that from him. Another great stat you love seeing, Sadiq Bay plus 20. Isaiah Stewart plus 12. Cade Cunningham plus 16. Jaden Ivey plus 16. The starters, again, against the defending champs, destroyed the Warriors starting lineup. Destroyed them. Just absolutely obliterate them. Ate them for lunch. So, yeah, man, it was a fun game. Extremely fun game to watch. And it's always fun to get these wins against a team like this because that means you can have fun watching the Pistons and have fun watching what they're doing. And you can also have fun seeing Steph Curry go off for 32. Because Steph hit some crazy shots tonight. And so did Jordan Poole. Like, those 2 guys, when you're able to see 2 guys like that put on a show and be able to just have fun watching them, and your team wins, and your team plays really well, it's like the best of both worlds. Especially when you're just like a basketball fan. You want to have fun basketball, watch it on the floor, and that's what you got. You got like a tremendous game tonight too. So I love this game. I love this play from the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if you'll ever see them shoot this well from the floor at all 3 areas. I don't think you'll ever see that again. I honestly, I wonder how many NBA teams have done this before. It has to be super rare. Like, I don't think you guys truly understand how insane this was. 40 of 83 from the field, 14 of 33 from 3, and 38 free throws. How many teams have drawn like 30 plus free throws this year? The Pistons damn near had 40 free throws drawn. How many teams have done that this year? It's crazy. It was a crazy game. I've never seen them play this well offensively. Never seen them play this well. But maybe they found something. Maybe this is a sign of things to come. Maybe Cade finding that go-to move and getting to his spot consistently after those first few games of struggling. Maybe he needed those first few games. And now this is a sign that he's really starting to orchestrate these things. So we'll see what happens, man. This was a really fun game. Great game from the Pistons. Last thing I'll leave you guys on. I really think that Dwayne Casey needs to start looking at trying to find a way to stagger Cade and Jaden Ivey. It sounded like that over the weekend when he did it, it was only because Jaden Ivey was sick. He came out and said that's why he did it. It wasn't because he was trying to stagger him. I was going to give him credit for it. He just went out there and said, no, I don't want any credit. Hey, that's on him. That's not on me. I was going to actually give him credit for once. However, I feel like for the first 3 quarters, really, Jaden Ivey was basically like, I don't want to say a no-show, but basically like you didn't really notice him because he was just playing off ball and Cade was controlling the entire offense. Now, that's how I want it to be. I've told you guys that for a while, that with Jaden Ivey, I know that he needs the ball in his hands more, but Cade should be orchestrating the offense. He should have the ball in his hands for a ton of the game. And I think the offense obviously flows a lot smoother. I combined both those words with him operating the offense. So I think they need to find a way to really stagger both those guys so Jaden can have some time with the ball in his hands so he doesn't feel like he's just out there to be out there for 3 quarters. But I don't think the solution should be take the ball out of Cade's hand more because Cade should have the ball in his hands for a lot of the game. And he played 39 minutes tonight. Cade played 39 minutes tonight and played that well from start to finish. Really nice game from him. But yeah, I think Jaden Ivey should be staggered and played with the second unit probably, like we saw in the game when he got staggered because of his illness apparently. Bring him back at the beginning of the second quarter, let him play without Cade a little bit, and then bring Cade back in at like the 7-minute mark or something. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. That's all I've got for you guys today. A tremendous win for the Detroit Pistons. They moved to 2-5 with this win over the Golden State Warriors. Tremendous game, efficient game offensively. Loved it. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Stay tuned for tonight's game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe, everybody. Go Pistons, and peace out.